T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes. T-minus 6 minutes. T-minus 5 minutes. 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
We are on, producer Corey says. I'm going to jump right into it. It's Wednesday. For me, it's kind of a special treat because it's just me. That smiling guy right there. We got to update that with the glasses. It's just Rod Pedersen in hour one. No co-host. And what that means, I'm going to ask you right now to get your dialing fingers ready and text me on the Western Dodge text line 902-518-3033. Or if you're watching on YouTube, get the comments rolling so it's just me for all of hour one. Trust me, it's not as boring as it sounds or agonizing. It actually goes by real fast. We're here live on the Game Plus Television Network. Hello. It's what I like to call the Canadian hour. And maybe that's why I go solo in hour one. Certainly know that the best. We get a lot of NHL, CFL, and baseball talk coming up here in hour one. In hour two, a lot of NHL talk. I'm going to tell you right now, the Tulsa King, Jared Dumba from the famous hockey-playing Dumba family is going to be with us. Jared Dumba to be talking all NHL in hour two. And we got some fun things coming down the pipe there. But until then, how do you like us so far? We're going to get into the quick six show topics here right now. I will say in honor of the Calgary Flames and the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm wearing this red and yellow colored shirt from our friends Whole Life clothing brand here in Florida. They dropped off a whole bunch of NFL, NHL themed shirts. So shout out Mark Gundry and Whole Life. And let's go. We don't have a lot of time here in the opening segment. The big story, fans of the Toronto Blue Jays are taking planes, boats, and automobiles to give their team some much-needed support against the winning Mariners in the American League Championship Series. Toronto down 2-0 heading into T-Mobile Park to play the Seattle Mariners for Game 3 of the ALCS tonight. Regular season games, as we all know, I think, in Seattle have a home feel for the Blue Jays, with fans in Western Canada making the trek across the border. In fact, the Victoria Clipper has added a playoff express sailing between Victoria and Seattle for these games. It's so much fun. A statement from Visit Seattle says October is a need period for the city's hotels, restaurants, and shops as the summer comes to an end, meaning baseball playoffs can provide a welcome boost. Financially is what I'm talking about, and I this is not going to be the poll question here. I would have loved for it to be for EMJ Marketing. Will the Blue Jays win Game 3? And I'm going to give you some numbers here that aren't going to make you feel too good about it. I'm sorry. But because it's Wednesday, we always do what's Canada's game of the week in the CFL. And trust me, that's coming up next as point number 2 today. But we'll all be riveted to our television sets. 8:08 p.m. Eastern is the first pitch tonight. And as I look at the numbers here, I'd like to know from the viewers, you don't need to vote on a poll. Tell me, do you think, it's our unofficial second poll, will the Blue Jays win tonight? Because the numbers don't favor them, okay? So after games 1 and 2 victories in Toronto by scores of 3-1 and 10-3 for the Mariners, they don't have the percentages here, but it says teams that take a 2-0 lead in best-of-7 postseason series have advanced 78 out of 93 times. Are there any mathematicians out there? 78 out of 93 is a very high percentage. I want to say like around 90% teams that go up 2-0 advance, and that's not even taking into account road wins, if road versus home matters in the playoffs, which I think it does. And of the 27 teams that have played in this 2-3-2 format that they're currently in, of the 27 teams that lost the first 2 games, only 3 have rallied back to win the series. But you know what? As the wise sports people say, you can't win 4 unless you win 1. And Game 3 goes tonight. Shane Bieber versus George Kirby, and we'll all be riveted for that tonight. So get your comments in. Let me know your thoughts on Game 3 tonight. I know everybody is riveted for Canada's team and what they're going to do tonight. I see Wayne in Victoria, BC, obviously says, go, Jays, go. John in Winnipeg, John Ohm, says, let's go, Blue Jays, Canada's team. When they're winning, which we've established all summer long. So we open with baseball. That's clearly the big story. We move on to point 2, which is the Canadian Football League on this Wednesday, because we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. And I got a couple of items here. A very large portion of our viewership is CFL fan-based. So we're in week 20. We have a pair of doubleheaders Friday night and Saturday. So before I get to the news of the league and kick that around here a little bit, it's a Friday night doubleheader, and I'm asking you to vote on, because it's Wednesday, what is Canada's game of the week? Our daily poll is brought to you by EMJ Marketing. Connect with thought leaders and industry experts through EMJ Marketing Speakers Bureau, emjmarketing.com. Here are your options. And I agonized over this a little bit. And our top 2 viewership regions continue to be Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. Although, listen, Calgary and Edmonton are right nipping on their heels, but Sask and Winnipeg are our top 2 cities for viewership, and the Rough Riders meet the Blue Bombers on Friday night. It's a must-win for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but I'm not voting for that. I'm voting for the second game of the doubleheader on Friday night, the Edmonton Elcamos at the BC Lions. Weekend evening games are always a lot of fun under the orange top in BC, and I tell you what, with the Rough Riders clinched first, kicking their heels up, chilling. It's not that big a game for the Rough Riders in Winnipeg. Huge for the Bombers. This one in Edmonton, if the Elks win their last 2 games, they could leapfrog Winnipeg and into a playoff spot. And the BC Lions, while they can't catch Saskatchewan, there's a lot of people, sorry to tell you, think the BC Lions are the best team in the CFL right now. That's my vote for Canada's game of the week. Edmonton at BC on Friday night. And then there's a Saturday doubleheader, Montreal at Ottawa, and there's some intrigue there. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are in first, but only 1 win ahead of Montreal. Montreal's got 2 games left. Hamilton won. So if you're an East Division CFL fan, I could see why you would vote for that. Ottawa is clearly out of it and has been for a while. And then the late game, the final game of the week, is the Toronto Argonauts at the Calgary Stampeders in a rematch of the 1971 Grey Cup and 2017 and a few others. But those are your 4 games in the Canadian Football League. And producer Corey telling me we're already into our final minute of the opening segment. When we come back, I'll roll over that CFL news. I have a hell of a lot of NHL and hockey talk to get to, including our junior hockey report for the Mad Greek. We'll do our picks Friday for Pump Jack's Steakhouse and Saloon, Pump Jack's Cathedral, and Pump Jack's Weyburn. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet. I'm going to sift through your comments in the break because, as you see, I've been talking through the opening 7 minutes of this segment. 902-518-3033. Get your comments in on the Blue Jays. Will they win tonight? What's Canada's game of the week? We'll continue all of that, plus NHL talk, NFL, and more. The Tulsa King, Jared Dumba, is coming up in hour 2 to talk NHL hockey, so just get you mentally prepped for that. We'll be back in a moment here on the Game Plus Television Network, YouTube Live, podcast, and 1700 Mission Radio.
Ultimate Fan Zone, taking our show on the road coast to coast. Shop online, ultimatefanzone.ca. Slick, user-friendly. We built this site for the die-hard sports fans. Jerseys, hats, team apparel, offering officially licensed fan gear from the best lines in sports. Nike, New Era, Adidas, Fanatics. Game day ready to your door. Now, just a click away, ultimatefanzone.ca. Or check us out on Facebook and Instagram. UFZ Downtown Moose Jaw, home of everything authentic.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge. Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help.
Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Nazareth's Canadian Farewell Tour is coming to Moose Jaw. Live at Temple Garden Center, October 17th. With special guest, Lee Aaron. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or sasktix.ca.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is the RP Show. Glad to be here and in this business. Glad to be anywhere. What's nice when it's solo and just me is we can now let our hair down a little bit and just slow down. We have to race through that opening segment where we talked about, if you just joined us already, the Blue Jays at Seattle tonight for Game 3. Our secondary poll question is, who wins tonight? And nobody knows. Carlos in Indianapolis writes in and he says, it's looking grim for the Jays. They really needed a home win when they had the chance for one. That's watching it very closely. It's like everybody's afraid right now to throw out the analysis, at least as far as the fans go. They want to wait to see how this series ends before they dump all over Vladdy and dump all over John Schneider or dump all over everybody. Fingers crossed they win tonight and make this thing a series, because as we said, you can't win 4 unless you win 1, and that's where it starts tonight. Regarding the CFL games this weekend, BW in Edmonton writes in, he says it's all in the Elkamos' hands whether they make it to the playoffs with a little help from Calgary. Yeah, so it's not all in their hands. When you are on the bottom looking up, or at least lower than the teams, it's not in your hands. You know that, BW. You're a smart guy. But I like your optimism. BC Eric writes in, this is great. He goes, go Mariners, BC's team, no Rogers. I ain't going to argue with you. Cheer for whoever you want to cheer. I, to be honest, I think it's presumptuous for the Blue Jays or even Blue Jays fans or Canadians in general to think BC's just automatically going to cheer for the Toronto Blue Jays. Cheer for whoever you want. Maybe that would be a good poll for our BC people, where we have a lot of viewers on TELUS Channel 924. Or Rogers Cable Channel 230. Who is BC cheering for in this series? We all want to know. I'm assuming there's been polls on some of the TV stations out there and radio. I don't know. I know who I'm cheering for. We're a Blue Jays show and will always be. Checking in, Ryan, Cardinal Ryan from upstate New York. Hello, Ryan. An ordained minister, just like myself. Doing God's work every day here. Not a big deal. Actually, it's a really big deal. But before we go further, and when I say we can let our hair down and we got time to do this, the Junior Hockey Report, we do it every day for the Mad Greek Eatery. The Western Hockey League announced Swift Current Broncos forward Noah Kosick has been named WHL Player of the Week. Kosick, a 17-year-old product of Victoria, BC, tallied 6 points and a +1 rating in 3 games as the Broncos went 2-1 this past week. Moose Jaw Warriors are home tonight to the Kamloops Blazers, by the way. So when you are going to the game, stop in at the Mad Greek, have some of the most famous ribs you're ever going to have, and tell the Mad Greek, Johnny, you treat us. You saw his commercial here on the RP Show. That would help us out great. And I'm going to rip through these topics, and then we'll come back a little more on what we've been talking about on Viewer Takeover. Like I say, when it's just me solo, it kind of has a Rush Limbaugh feel, doesn't it? We can just relax, and I'll get my opinion out. You get yours out. We're not going to fight. Like if you don't want to cheer for the Blue Jays because you don't like Rogers, that's fine. I would say, why don't you like Rogers would be a thing. I know you don't like corporate Canada. I understand that, but I've had a Rogers cellular telephone for over 10 years, and the bill's never gone up. Never. $24.21 every month for over a decade. I got no issues with Rogers. I kind of like him, actually. And regarding the news yesterday, I don't really like when news drops during the show because you're forced to analyze it on the spot. You know, when the CFL made their rule changes and stuff, I'm like, I want to sit back and think about this a little bit. And it's really bad when tragic news breaks during the show. I've had that happen. That's the worst. But just yesterday, when the Saskatchewan Roughriders announced contract extensions for their head coach, Corey Mason, the general manager, Jeremy O'Day, it caught me off guard. And for Saskatchewan-related topics, the place that is my home and there I live for a half a century, you can always go to rodpedersen.com because my thoughts are always there in the daily commentary. So where I put in that commentary, which runs on Sask Radio, is this. I don't. Did you expect it? If you're a Rider fan or a CFL fan, they would extend those guys. But I'm not arguing with it or saying it's a bad move. It's very clear Corey Mason, Jeremy O'Day are the men for the job. But for the longest time in sports, you had to win before you got the new contracts. That's not the case anymore. And that in some places you do, a lot you don't. Look at the Montreal Canadiens. Just gave their two GMs, Hughes and Gorton, contract extensions on the very same day on Tuesday. The Habs, which I'm getting to the Habs here right away. So Florida Panthers, the team that I cover, nobody got extensions until they won a Stanley Cup. And all of a sudden they're handing them out like candy, which they should. So all I'll say on the O'Day Mace extensions is that I'm not surprised. There are the men for the job. I'm just shocked that it happened before they've won a Grey Cup. And maybe they feel it's just a more formality for them too. A given. We'll know in a month. But whenever you hand out new contracts, all teams want the continuity, and that's what they have. So that should be applauded. I was just surprised by the timing of it. Okay, moving on. We're only at point 3, but that's okay. We got a lot of time, as I say. Just me and you. And get those comments in, by the way, 902-518-3033. I don't know when people are going to understand. Don't text outside show hours because I'm not on the phone outside. You want to talk to me? I got all the time in the world for you. 902-518-3033 for Western Dodge. Experience the Western Dodge difference. Local, reliable, and driven to find the perfect vehicle for you. But do it now. Don't do it outside show hours. I don't know when they're going to get that. Hopefully, eventually they do. To the National Hockey League from Tuesday night. Jack Eichel scored twice to lead Vegas to a win over Calgary. Caden Korzak also scored for the Golden Knights, the pride of Yorkton Sask. Glad you asked. And Thomas Hertl added an empty netter with 7 seconds to go. Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman scored for the Flames in a 4-2 loss. Dustin Wolf made 26 saves in the loss for Calgary. Just so you know, I'm going to stop and drop anchor here for a second. Top 5 teams in the NHL right now from the Rod Pedersen Show. Number 1, Vegas. What's my criteria? Who would I want to face the least in the Stanley Cup final, best of 7 right now? It's Vegas. Not just because we're on Nevada television daily now on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Number 1, Vegas Golden Knights. Number 2, the Carolina Hurricanes. Number 3, the Edmonton Oilers. Number 4, the Dallas Stars. And number 5, the Colorado Avalanche. Based on 1 week of the regular season. Vegas 1, Carolina 2, Edmonton 3, Dallas 4, Colorado 5. Debate amongst yourselves, and I'll come back on that in a second. Cole Caulfield scored his second goal of the game at 3:25 of overtime to give Montreal a 5-4 victory over Seattle. I'm watching the highlights this morning on because I'm going to have to break down and buy the center ice package or whatever they call it. Not like I was aggrieved last night. I was watching the Tampa Bay Lightning at Washington Capitals. I do host a Florida NHL show here, so I was okay watching that, but I'm seeing the highlights from the Bell Center going, I wish I was there. The Bell Center was good even when the Habs sucked, but all of a sudden they're good. And again, the contract extensions were thrown out yesterday to Hughes and Gorton, their GMs. Whatever the titles are, the titles don't matter. They really got something special going on in Montreal. They're not anywhere near the top 5 teams in the NHL, but they're going to be good. They're going to finish ahead of Ottawa. I don't think anybody would doubt that. And you talk to anybody in the NHL who works in the NHL, players, staff, whatever, the one barn you want to be in, if you can only go to one, it's the Montreal Bell Center. And now they got a team. Again, finally. Not that it was that long. They were in the Stanley Cup final 4 years ago, but you get what I'm saying. And of course, cue the Leafs fans. Oliver Ekman-Larsson and John Tavares each had a goal and 2 assists, and Toronto snapped a 2-game skid with a 7-4 victory over Nashville. In New York, Trent Frederick scored. Stuart Skinner stopped all 30 shots he faced, and the back-to-back defending Western Conference champion Edmonton Oilers beat the New York Rangers 2-0 on Tuesday night, which is another thing. The Rangers have set an NHL record. They're the first team ever to not score a goal for their first 3 home games. I did actually do the bottom 5 teams in the NHL. I'll get to that a little later. But there's something to be said about these Canadian teams and so forth. Didn't take long, man. Come on. John says, what about the Jets, Rod? What about them? We're not starting this already, are we? I already picked them to be in the Stanley Cup final, which was met with complete silence. As I said, even Jets fans were like, what? Nobody picks us to win anything, ever. I said it. Winnipeg, Carolina, Stanley Cup final. John Ohm, it's October 15th, bro. So if every week, if the Jets aren't in the top 5, is this what we're going to keep going through? What about the Jets? Rich in Edmonton writes in, he says, Bell Center is tops on my list of NHL venues to visit. Did a tour last summer. Unbelievable. And I'm not a Habs fan. See, bro, that is the thing. It's a little like the Edmonton Elks and the CFL with the way the Montreal Canadiens were. For years, I'm going in there, road trips with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, asked the Montreal Canadiens for a pass. Absolutely, Rod. Dominic Sayont was the PR guy for the Habs. Not sure if he still is or not. Just boom, done. What do you need? It'll be at the will call when you get here or whatever. Press gate. Oh, producer Corey saying in my ear, he's a nice guy. Again, I don't know if he's still in that role or not, but just whatever you need. Bing, bing, bing. So many teams make you, give a blood test, give up your firstborn, do a criminal background check. Not the Habs. I'm not saying that, Corey, but trust me, I thought it. Certain other things that you might have to give up and run through a test. They just class. And yeah, you can have those tours. I mean, it's not the same. I always say, go on the tour. If you can't go to a game, i.e. you're in a town and the team's not playing at home, still go on the tour. But it's not the same as a game, especially the Bell Center, because when you go to a game, the fans come in, it comes to life, and you could, at the time, when I was there, when Jean Beliveau was still alive, you could walk around a corner and boom, oh, there's Jean Beliveau. Walk around a corner, boom, Réjean Houle, Serge Savard. All the greats go, they honor the alum and there, and I just wonder why so many teams don't. But I'm going to upset myself going down that road when I think about why teams don't honor their alumni. Some do really well. Some wipe their feet on them. And I don't understand why, because the alumni are the backbone of an organization. And I often say it's like Montreal Canadiens do it. Why can't blankety blank? Why can't you? Why do you ignore your alumni? I don't understand it. Avery writes and he says, are the Blue Jays cooked? Or is there still a path to the World Series? We opened with that, believe it or not, 25 minutes ago. We'll continue that as we work our way through the quick six show topics here. That's the question. Nobody knows. Shane Bieber tonight versus George Kirby. What we know is this is must win. If there was a must win, this is it. Game 3 is always the swing game in any series. We'll be back with more of your comments. Thanks for answering the bell, everybody, as I knew you would. And a sports update, and we are kind of doing viewer takeover all day. The Tulsa King, Jared Dumba, coming up in hour 2, by the way. The Tulsa King, NHL Analyst to the Stars here on the RP Show. We'll be right back in a moment. You are watching live across Canada and 32 U.S. states on the Game Plus TV network, YouTube Live, podcast, and 1700 Mission Radio.
Country's hottest party is coming. James Barker Band, Bud Light Buckle Up Tour 2025. Live across Canada with special guests Ryan and Rory. Yeah, let's keep it simple. November 20th, Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca. James Barker Band Live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Ultimate Fan Zone, taking our show on the road coast to coast. Shop online, ultimatefanzone.ca. Slick, user-friendly. We built this site for the die-hard sports fans. Jerseys, hats, team apparel, offering officially licensed fan gear from the best lines in sports. Nike, New Era, Adidas, Fanatics. Game day ready to your door. Now, just a click away. ultimatefanzone.ca or check us out on Facebook and Instagram. UFZ Downtown Moose Jaw, home of everything authentic.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina. This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Welcome back. I'm just responding to a text message from Todd Stottlemyre. No big deal. Not a big deal. Wow. Did I ever tell you this is the greatest job ever? Speaking of Blue Jays greats, how about Blue Jays great fans? Darren is watching in Melfort where they do the Melfort Shuffle, and he writes in and he says on the Western Dodge text line, one step further, Jays win games 3, 4, 6, and 7. Go Jays. He's getting fancy with his picks. That's what we're talking about. Game 3 tonight. It is fun. It is fun this time of the year, but also extremely nerve-wracking. And by the way, saying again, thank you to the viewers. And I knew you would respond for answering the bell when it's just me going solo here. I think it's like every Wednesday I do it, hour 1. I might do more, might do less. I don't know. Felt cute, might delete later. But as I was saying earlier, I have a Winnipeg Carolina Stanley Cup final. This is kind of funny. BC Eric writes in, he goes, Jets versus Carolina Stanley Cup final equals lowest TV watch numbers in NHL history. Number 1 on that, aren't you a negative, Nancy? Number 2, I don't care about that. And I'll come back on that. Number 3, I believe the most watched round 1 game in NHL history was Colorado at Winnipeg 2 years ago. Remember that 7-6 wild game 1? People don't care. I don't believe about that Canada-U.S. big market, small market thing. I may be wrong, and I don't really remember. Do you? What they were saying about the ratings last year for the Stanley Cup Final? I do remember Game 7 2 years ago. Panthers-Oilers was the second highest watched Game 7 ever. The highest was Chicago-Boston 2013. Now that's two original 6 teams. And by the way, I'm not saying you're wrong. What I don't understand about that ratings thing, I'm going to be watching, and you're going to be watching. I don't care who else is watching. Unbelievable story. You know, the Carolina Hurricanes, who've been knocking on the door with Rod Brindamore for years as the head coach against the Winnipeg Jets, who, I'll be honest, I kind of feel are becoming Canada's team. I really feel that way. Maybe it's just me, but there's something lovable about the Winnipeg Jets, especially what they went through with last year's playoffs. I can tell you now, 5 years living here in America and during hockey season, that's a vastly misguided perception Canadians have about U.S. hockey fans. They think Canada is cool as hell. They're jealous of the love of hockey in Canada because it isn't widespread in America, but there's a lot of people that love hockey here. I think a lot of people would watch. Avery writes in, here's the other thing. I'm a little less discerning about the comments that come in because we got more time. And I don't mind this. Avery writes in, I'm guessing he's in Winnipeg. He says, lots of talk today about the state of the Grey Cup Festival and halftime show not being announced. Is there a reason to be worried about the state of the Grey Cup in Winnipeg? And the game's not sold out yet. You know, were you reading my diary, Avery? Because I've been talking about this the last couple of days. I put it in my newsletter that you can sign up for free at rodpedersen.com, which becomes a Monday column at rodpedersen.com. I said that. This is not good. And somebody jumped down my throat and said, don't know if you're trying to start something, but there's less than 300 tickets left for the game and party passes are sold out. Okay. I guess won't say anything. I guess all is good. Like, because if I'm not mistaken, when Winnipeg hosts a Grey Cup, it holds like 35,000. It's not like back in the day BC Place last year, 55,000. It wasn't sold out, but it was over 50,000 in BC Place for that Grey Cup. Winnipeg, Toronto, and the Lions weren't even in it. So it's nothing would make me happier, frankly, than going on and talking about the CFL for 2 hours every day. But the problem is you say anything negative and you got 1,800 people or more want to jump down your throat about it. How dare you criticize it? Just then don't talk about it at all then. They will not address the issues, certainly not at the league level. And you got enough fans that see themselves as the gatekeepers of the league. They don't even want to hear it. So kind of that was the point. Somebody's like, oh, what are you trying to start something here? No, I'm pointing out that we're a month away from the game and the halftime act hasn't been announced yet. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not starting anything. And it's not necessarily a CFL thing. I guess somebody sent this to me on social media. Apparently there's a group of people, a fairly large group of people that are trying to get a petition going. Actually, I think they have it going to have George Strait supplant Bad Bunny as the Super Bowl halftime act. And people are sending it to me because they know that I've been in the George Strait fan club since I've been 12 years old. And I don't know. Part of this, I think, comes to the fact that it's not that I'm getting old, because most people get old and get more bitter. I get old and I'm mellowing. I will maybe watch one song of Bad Bunny's at halftime of Super Bowl. I don't know. I've seen George Strait 3 times. I don't need to see him again. I don't care. And I also find this real funny because longtime viewers of this show will know that I was always the guy championing that it had to be a Canadian Grey Cup halftime act. And at least half the people thought I was an idiot for that. And I saw on the weekend flash across the ticker of Fox News, uproar over non-American Super Bowl act, Bad Bunny. I'm like, oh, it's not just me. I want somebody from my country. Anyways. Avery, I feel like you and I could rack up a phone bill or enjoy a long coffee together because we see things the same way here. He says the biggest problem with the league is the marketing, not the field size. I've been saying it forever, but one thing's changing and the other isn't, as you see. Utah Darren writes in, he says, I'm envious that you can buy a ticket to the Grey Cup. Doesn't happen in the U.S. with the Super Bowl, which is another interesting thing. Last year was the first year in well over a decade that the Super Bowl didn't sell out. And, we sit here as sports people and, when I have this discussion in the press boxes and so forth and the media rooms and then carry it forth onto the television with you every day, we often say in the sports world, what's the breaking point of the costs here? How long are people going to put up with these escalating ticket prices? And last year at the Super Bowl, the fans said no more. Because 2 years ago in Vegas, the cheapest ticket was $12,000. It had to have been more than that in New Orleans last year, and people said, nope. So you can buy a Super Bowl ticket, but are you willing to spend that amount of money? I know I'm not. Yeah, and I don't even know what the Grey Cup tickets are worth now, but Leonard writes in, hello, Leonard. He says, isn't Puerto Rico American-owned? I don't know. And he's asking that because that's where Bad Bunny comes from. Sometimes you wonder how we get into these discussions. By the way, with the NHL games from last night, the stand-up comic beat me. Scott Belford, who was with us yesterday, also from the Walk Off podcast. He beat me 7-6. And the one that I got wrong was the Anaheim Ducks beating the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I'm just bringing that up because earlier this segment we were talking about last night's NHL games, my top 5 teams in the NHL, which, by the way, when we come back in this next segment, along with more viewer takeover and a sports update, I'll give you my bottom 5 teams in the NHL. And another one, oh my God, a media guy here. By the way, the biggest name in South Florida media, Joe Rose, he tore a strip off the Dolphins yesterday to the point I was like, and he used to play for the team, and he does their color now. You're not going to believe what he said. I was like, there's not a lot of moments in radio anymore where you look at the radio and go, and he did it. We'll be back in a moment. We're live on Game Plus Television, YouTube Live, podcast, and 1700 AM Mission Radio.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Ultimate Fan Zone, taking our show on the road coast to coast. Shop online, ultimatefanzone.ca. Slick, user-friendly. We built this site for the die-hard sports fans. Jerseys, hats, team apparel, offering officially licensed fan gear from the best lines in sports. Nike, New Era, Adidas, Fanatics. Game day ready to your door. Now, just a click away, ultimatefanzone.ca, or check us out on Facebook and Instagram. UFZ Downtown Moose Jaw, home of everything authentic.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste. Savor. Share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in. Enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Got to tell you, Hour 1 is brought to you in part by Suds Full Service Car Wash. Fuel your fleet's finesse with Suds Regina's unbeatable cleaning packages. They'll shine like new every time. Visit sudsregina.com. They have us on there every day in the lobby. Hi, Kirby. And brought to you in part by Outlaw Communications. When you're looking for strategic communications with impact, Outlaw Communications delivers, led by Tony Plater with 35 years experience in communication and leadership. He specializes in media relations training, leadership coaching, and crisis communication strategy. Check him out at tonyplater.com. Thanks again to everybody for answering the bell. Maybe we'll do this solo thing a little more. I kind of like it. It's my friend Chris from the Bronx says this. It's like you have a Rush Limbaugh feel. I don't know what you're talking about, but it's just so entertaining. Thank you, Chris. And heretofore, it is the Canadian hour. But having said that, Barry is watching in Powell River, BC, the home of the old hot winger, Terry Perkins, an old hockey buddy of mine, 50-goal man in the dub with Spokane. Barry writes in and he says, hi, Rod, just wanted to remind you that Bad Bunny is an American citizen. I don't care. That's not your fault, Barry. That's not your fault. But tell CNN. They're the ones that are running the headline. Uproar over non-American Super Bowl halftime act. Bad Bunny. Who cares? And thank you, John Ohm, if you're agreeing with me, John Ohm in Winnipeg, on this business of getting older and getting mellower. So many people get older and get bitterer. I don't want to be that guy. It takes too much energy. And speaking of Winnipeg, I need your help, Winnipeggers. I need your help. I've been on this podcast out of Chicago a couple of times already this NHL season. The wonderful Angela Cody. I love her. It's called the Hockey Princess Podcast. And she told me last night, I was on her show, they're going up. Her and her dad are coming to Winnipeg at the end of October to catch a Jets game. I'm not sure if it's when Chicago's there. I'm guessing it is, but they want to see Jonathan Toews, as she said, greatest captain in Chicago Blackhawks history, as a Jet. And she's like, what is there to do in Winnipeg? And I said, well, you're asking the wrong guy. I've never lived there. Off the top of my head, I said, you got to go to the Pony Corral. It's just a few blocks from the rink. Ask for Peter Giannakis. Tell him to Greek it up for you and tell him Rod sent you to the Pony Corral. That was one. I said, if you like steak, definitely Ray and Jerry's. If that's the proper name of the, I never went there to eat back in the day when I was going, you get it. And I said, the Polo Park Mall. I said, you're from Chicago. If you want authentic Canadian stores, Polo Park Mall is amazing. Beyond that, I would have said Hooters back in the day on Milt Stiegel Drive, but I wouldn't. You can get that anywhere, especially in Chicago. But Winnipeggers, can you please rally to the cause through 902-518-3033, Prairie Mobile text line, or the YouTube chat? Where should Angela and her dad, whose nickname is Krusty, go in Winnipeg when they go at the end of the month? And I'll pass it along to her. She might even be watching now. Sports update brought to you by Ultimate Fan Zone Sports Store. Your home for jerseys, collectibles, and all the gear you need. Visit them today or shop online at ultimatefanzone.ca. The Toronto Blue Jays, trailing the American League Championship Series 2-0, will aim to pick up a road win tonight when the best-of-7 showdown resumes at T-Mobile Park in Seattle. Righty Shane Bieber will be on the mound for Toronto, who, of course, lost the opening two games at Rogers Center 3-1 and 10-3. Righty George Kirby will start for the Mariners, who, as we've all heard by now, have never been to a World Series, and they won't. The defending champion LA Dodgers are heading back to California with a 2-0 lead in the NLCS. Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitched a three-hitter for the first postseason complete game in 8 years as the Dodgers beat the Milwaukee Brewers 5-1 last night. My friend Kelly Mars was watching down in Phoenix. Texted me and he goes, huge for the Dodgers to pull two out of there. I'm like, that's what the number one payroll gets you. And he never wrote me back. It's just, you got the number one payroll in baseball. I would hope you can win games like that. Teoscar Hernandez and Max Muncy each hit solo home runs for Los Angeles. There are 4 games in the NHL tonight, including one in Buffalo, where the 0-3 Sabres host the 1-2 Ottawa Senators, who have lost 2 in a row. Elsewhere, the 1-3 Calgary Flames visit the 1-2 Utah Mammoth in Salt Lake City. And that's your sports update, proudly presented by Ultimate Fan Zone Sports Store, Moose Jaw. Get your game day gear in store or online at ultimatefanzone.ca. Jason in Red Deer writes in and he says, morning, Rod Squad. I'm sure it's already been discussed, but not a great start for Dustin Wolf so far. And man, what a return for Stuart Skinner. Guy, it has been discussed so far. And how quickly you all forget the Flames going up into Edmonton on opening night and erasing a 3-0 deficit and winning in a shootout. So I'm not down for the roller coaster with the fans. I can't. Buckle in, man. Oh, and by the way, Jason, don't look at the Pacific Division standings or you'll puke. Settle in. It's going to be a long ride. And if your emotions are going to go up and down like a toilet seat, with every single game, you better get some Tums. John Ohm says, what to do in Winnipeg? Everything. Make sure you get some pierogies. I need specific places for Angela and her dad to go in Winnipeg. So far, nothing's topped Pony Corral, Ray and Jerry's, and the Polo Park Mall. But, I'm a mall rat. I have no qualms with telling her to go to a mall. I had friends visiting last week here from Canada. I said, go to the Boca Town Center. You'll love it. They did, and they loved it. Ooh. Brad writes in. Brad's like my Winnipeg source. He goes, Pony Corral is now closed and not there anymore. There's like no Pony Corrals anymore or just downtown? That sucks. Like every Greek restaurateur that I know, it just looked Greek, and you go in there and there's photos of the Giannakis family, with various political leaders. Pierre Elliott Trudeau comes to mind in some of those photos. Peter always treated me so well. But hey, all good things come to an end. Allie writes in from Sherwood Park, Alberta, on the Western Dodge text line. She says, "Morning, RP. Here is a positive CFL text. Friday night outside Mosaic Stadium, Kev, my sister, and myself got to meet Luke Wilson. He was very nice, and I'm a tall girl, but I felt very short next to him. I didn't realize how tall he was. Have a great day." Thank you, Allie. It is an interesting story that I was thinking about the other day, this Luke Wilson thing. It would be great if they did the CFL Reporter of the Year thing, but it's like they used to. Which used to be brought to you by Gibson's Finest Whiskey. I don't think they do that anymore. In the NFL, they do, and Pat McAfee wins it every year. I don't know if he would win it this year or not. Probably. Would Luke Wilson win CFL? There's a difference between media personality and reporter. Is Luke Wilson a reporter? I don't think so, but who are reporters anymore? They barely even exist. It's all about influencers, and it's one of the reasons why I've stopped writing as much about the CFL or the NHL is it's just not where it's at anymore. It's all about the clips, as Moose would say. It's all about the Instagram. Luke Wilson does a good job on that. Ron in Calgary writes in, he goes, Flames second stringer Devin Cooley gets the start tonight. This is a pretty big night for the Flames. It's October the 15th. And y'all got to chill out, guys. You really do. Last week, Dustin Wolf gets the start in Edmonton. And then for whatever reason, they start on the next night in Vancouver and they get shelled. I don't know why you would go. John continues. He says, there are 2 pony corrals open, Pembina Highway and Nairn Avenue. Grand Park and downtown location are closed. I don't know if I would tell her to go all the way down to the Pembina Highway location, even though we've had some big fun there. Come on, Winnipeg. I need some help. John says the outlet mall is better. Ray and Jerry's, Pony Corral, and don't let me down here, Polo Park. She came to me and asked, Ray in Scarborough, Ontario writes in and he says, hey, Rod, does anyone do presentations better than the Montreal Canadiens? Great opening ceremony, great tribute to Ken Dryden, unbelievable atmosphere at the Bell Center last night. Ray, you weren't watching earlier, obviously. I read the thing about Cole Caulfield scoring in overtime. I'm like, I wish I was there. I know back in the day, if I'd lived in Montreal, I would have died. I remember the 2008 Grey Cup. I'm like, this place makes Vegas look like Grenfell. Montreal. Oh, what a great city. Well, continue. Hey, can you believe this? We got through hour 1 and unscathed, largely. Coming up next hour, we'll continue here on the wonderful Game Plus TV, our overlord. And we'll go live across Nevada on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Again, more Golden Knights people lining up to come on this program in the weeks ahead. I'm very excited about that and their support. Kenny in Vancouver, a quick one. Hey, some people might start their day with a coffee or breakfast. I start my day watching the RP show. True story. I set my alarm for 9 a.m. Vancouver time, and this is the best way for me to start my day. Keep on rocking it, Rod. You too, bro. Thank you, Kenny in Vancouver. We'll be right back with hour 2 right after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso. Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste. Savor. Share. Famoso. The spirit of Italian. Come in. Enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Famoso. Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste. Savor. Share. Famoso. The spirit of Italian. Come in. Enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
How about that?
We have liftoff. Hello, everybody. It's the RP Show on a Wednesday. 8 Sports and Entertainment Network and various other platforms, including the U.S. South 1700 Mission Radio. It's your boy RP here. Very excited about this program today because coming up in our second segment this hour, Jared Dumba will be with us, the Tulsa King. You're not going to want to miss that. That's my nickname for him. He's our NHL analyst from the hockey-playing Dumba family and spent some time with the Tulsa Oilers. And he's got some great stories from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I call him the Tulsa King. So get your hockey on. That's coming up in the second segment. And by the way, before we delve into the quick six show topics like we do here every day, one thing I'm realizing, you know, Game Plus, we've got a great relationship with them. We've been with them now for many seasons. We're in season 7 there. Why I think it's going so well here on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network is we're one of the few shows talking hockey in America. And I got a real bang out of this yesterday when I said there are only 2 teams in the NHL that are unbeaten, Seattle and Carolina. And a guy writes in, he's watching from Washington State of all places. He's like, don't forget Dallas. I'm like, oh, yeah. I don't mind being corrected. That's a very important thing. I'm okay. Being wrong is going to happen. There's just not a lot of people talking hockey in the USA, and they love that we do. However, let's get down to business with the big story here in the Quick Six. We're starting with baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays will try to climb back into the American League Championship Series tonight in Seattle. Toronto trails the Mariners 2-0. After dropping the first two back at home at Rogers Center, Shane Bieber gets the start for the Jays against George Kirby at T-Mobile Park. Now, again, nobody helped me out with the math when I was talking about this earlier, but of teams that have gone down 0-2 in the ALCS, only 14 of 93 have come back to win the series. But at this point, we're not even worried about just trying to win a game. Vladdy trying to get a hit. And Shane Bieber hoping to have a quality outing. So we're hoping that he refines his Cy Young form. This is why they acquired him at the trade deadline. It's the secondary poll question here today on the RP show is, do the Blue Jays win tonight? But I feel like all the Jays fans and all of Canada, they're too nervous to even vote. So all eyes will be on that 8:08 Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are heading home with a 2-0 edge in the NLCS. Yoshinobu Yamamoto tossed a 3-hitter, just the first complete game in the postseason since 2017 as the defending champions beat the Milwaukee Brewers 5-1. Former JT Oscar Hernandez and Max Muncy each went deep for LA. And to be honest, Vegas, I know, is a Dodgers town, right? For many, many years, your AAA team was the AAA team for the Dodgers. There's a lot of Dodgers fans in Canada, too. And my prayer is for a Blue Jays Dodgers World Series, my two favorite uniforms in the game. But Toronto's got some work to do. Big night for baseball, just one game. By the way, point two, because we're anchored on Game Plus TV out of Toronto. We do this every Wednesday. What is Canada's game of the week in the Canadian Football League? We talked about it lengthily in hour one. It's a Friday night doubleheader, Saskatchewan at Winnipeg. Friday night, second game, Edmonton at BC. That's my vote for game of the week, and it's leading for EMJ Marketing, leading the vote. Saturday, Montreal at Ottawa. Toronto at Calgary. Again, we kicked around the CFL a lot in the first hour on Game Plus TV. To me, of more importance is this. I was on the podcast twice out of Chicago, the Hockey Princess podcast hosted by the lovely and talented Angela Cody. And she said that she's going up to Winnipeg to catch the Blackhawks. Well, she's going to Winnipeg at the end of October. I'm only guessing that the Blackhawks are going to be there, but she wants to see Jonathan Toews, in her words, the greatest captain in Blackhawks history, now with the Jets. And she's saying, what is there to do in Winnipeg? And I thought, I don't know. I've never lived there. I've had great meals at the Pony Corral. Sounds like a lot. It's not a strip club or anything nefarious. It's just a great Greek restaurant, sometimes with live entertainment. It's good. It's good. Pony Corral. I also said Ray and Jerry's, and nobody's argued that. One of the best steakhouses in the country. And then I said the Polo Park Mall, if you really want authentic Canadian stores, that's where you would go. Kristen writes in from Winnipeg, and I appreciate this. I got to screenshot this, send it to Angela. On the Western Dodge text line, you can always reach us here, 902-518-3033. Kristen says, things to do in Winnipeg, Silver Heights Restaurant on Portage. The Pancake House for breakfast close to Polo Park Mall. I went there with Jets broadcaster Brian Munns. You aren't just whistling Dixie. Good call on the Pancake House. The Zoo and the Leaf are great attractions too. The Human Rights Museum near the Forks Market. And she says the Forks Market has multiple shops and big eatery. So, okay, Forks Market, Pancake House, Silver Heights. I feel like that will fill up her time, her and her dad, Krusty. So thank you, Kristen, for answering the bell on that. By the way, we'll be doing CFL picks on Friday for Pump Jack's Steakhouse and Saloon. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet as we just keep trucking along here. Point three of the Quick Six Show topics. Jack Eichel scored twice to lead Vegas to a 4-2 victory over the Calgary Flames Tuesday night. Caden Korzak also scored for the Golden Knights. Thomas Hertl added an empty netter with 7 seconds to go. Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman scored for the Flames. Dustin Wolf made 26 saves in the loss. Flames coming back at it tonight. They visit Utah, but I stopped for a minute when discussing this earlier on the program to say who are my top 5 teams in the National Hockey League, and I promised that I would get to the bottom 5 too. You're realizing by now this show is different than every other sports talk show you're going to see or hear or listen to. My top 5 teams, I got the Vegas Golden Knights as the number 1 team. The criteria is this. Who do you least want to face right now in the Stanley Cup final? I would have had Florida number 1. But with the injuries to their captain, Alexander Barkov, and another top player, Matthew Tkachuk, out until at least Christmas, it's not Florida. Vegas is the team that I don't want to play in the Stanley Cup. I don't ever want to play them. Now, interestingly enough, they are 8th overall in the NHL standings, but we're only a week into the regular season. They'll figure it out. Jack Eichel, who I want to talk with the Tulsa King about in the next segment, Jared Dumba. Jack Eichel is such a stud. And it breeds into a longer conversation here, but let me just try to stay on point. Squirrel moment. Top 5 teams. Vegas 1. Carolina 2, which incidentally, they're also 2nd overall in the standings. 3, the Edmonton Oilers. 4, the Dallas Stars. And number 5, the Colorado Avalanche, which incidentally, the Avalanche are number 1 overall in the NHL standings, but we're only a week into the season. My bottom 5, and we'll go 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. 28 is the Utah Mammoth. I don't think they're ever going to figure it out. I'm sorry. 29 is the New York Islanders, and that pains me to say it because of my good friend Joe Lazito, who hosts the Coliseum Chronicles podcast, and I love Patrick Waugh. He's my favorite goalie of all time, and he's their head coach, and they can't win. So, yeah. 28 Utah, 29 New York Islanders, number 30 the Chicago Blackhawks. Interestingly enough, at 1-2-1, they're actually not even in the bottom 10 of the NHL standings, but they're bad. And I know that friends with that organization, friends on that team, they don't like me saying this, but we can't worry about hurt feelings on this show. Why would we start now worrying about that? 31, the San Jose Sharks, because quite frankly, they're the worst team in the West. There's no two ways about it. And the 32nd team is the Buffalo Sabres, because this popped into my mind. Why can some teams figure it out and others can't? The longer discussion on that is ownership. That's the answer. It always comes back to that. But if you want to dig into the minutiae of it, you would like the Montreal Canadiens, who Cole Caulfield scored his second goal of the game at 3:25 of overtime to give Montreal a 5-4 win over Seattle. I have written in all caps here, Bell Center. Or as us who like to dabble in Francais, Centre Bell. Watching the highlights last night, or this morning actually, going, I wish I was there. I always wish I was at the Bell Center. And that was my team until about 79, and my dad forbade me from cheering for them, which is another longer discussion that I don't want to get into here. But anyways, I have this love and respect for the Montreal Canadiens. Even when they're losing, they do everything right. Their fans are very classy. And anyways, they were in the Stanley Cup Final 2021, go through this rebuild, and all of a sudden, ta-da, they're back. They were in the playoffs last year ahead of schedule. They're the most exciting young team in the NHL. Nobody's going to argue that. And they honored Ken Dryden last night. I saw it, the number 29 spotlight on the banner. Oh, my God. Salut! How can you not love the Montreal Canadiens unless you're a Leafs fan? 902-518-3033 is the text line. BW in Edmonton writes in, says, all my friends know not to call me during the RP show. On my days off, my bride joins me to watch the RP show. The company makes the coffee taste even better. She misses the text jingle. Well, life goes on. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Back on point. Oliver Ekman-Larsson and John Tavares each had a goal and 2 assists, and the Toronto Maple Leafs snapped a 2-game skid with a 7-4 win over Nashville. Here's the thing. I just can't get behind the Leafs, but that's okay. There's enough people behind them. They don't need me behind them. The fans are, like, Montreal fans are different, but they're not like Leaf fans. Leaf fans are out of their heads. I don't understand them, you know. But again, they don't need me cheering for them. They got enough. Speaking of those Oilers, Trent Frederick scored. Stuart Skinner stopped all 30 shots he faced. And the back-to-back defending Western Conference champion Edmonton Oilers beat the New York Rangers 2-0 Tuesday night. That's all I'll say about Tuesday's games. We did the picks yesterday, if you were watching the show yesterday, with Scott Belford from the Walk Off podcast, who's also a stand-up comedian, and the son of a gun beat me 7-6 in our NHL picks. So, it's early in the year, but I got to pick it up. It's 11 minutes after the hour. If you observe, that kind of thing. 902-518-3033. Hi, Mandy in Edmonton. She has just pointed out that it's 11 minutes after the hour. Thank you so much. I'm just sifting through all the comments. We got a ton. As I say, when I go solo, I really invite audience participation here on the RP show. It makes things a lot easier for everybody. We're already running out of time in the first segment. The Tulsa King, Jared Dumba, is coming up in the next segment. I wanted to mention an NFL note. Point 4, the quick 6 show topics. Tennessee's decision to draft quarterback Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick was meant to pair him with head coach Brian Callahan for long-term success. However, Callahan was fired this week after just 6 games. This trend isn't new. Over the past decade, NFL coaches often face the hot seat after a team drafts a quarterback high. Cam Ward is the 4th consecutive number 1 pick whose coach was fired before the end of his rookie season. Go back and look. Only Joe Burrow remains with his original coach. That's Zach Taylor up in Cincinnati. This pattern raises concerns about the impact on young quarterbacks' development. Well, and again, that's number 1 overall picks, not first-round picks. There's a difference. It's a longer discussion. Like, look at J.J. McCarthy up there in Minnesota, who got hurt in his first year. He still got the same head coach. Teams are taking the guy number 1 overall, throwing him onto the field, and wondering why they're not having success. Anyways, beyond all of that, it's a fascinating discussion. You see why the Vegas Raiders went with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. Pete far more proven, I would say, at his craft than Geno Smith, but I mentioned this near the end of last hour. I wanted to get it here before we break. I was listening to the radio here in South Florida. This guy, Joe Rose, he is the biggest personality, both figuratively and literally, in South Florida media. He was Dan Marino's tight end on the field, does color on the radio and a morning show on the radio here. He went up one side and down the other of the Miami Dolphins. I guess it was yesterday morning, about how he's like, I'm sure Chris Greer is a nice guy, the GM. He's like, he's got to go. He goes, this team needs to start right at the very top, basically right below the owner, Stephen Ross, and fire everybody. And I'm like, it's okay to say that, but you're the color guy. That's the difference between Canada and America. Maybe Raiders fans, you can tell me what you hear on the radio, because it hasn't been an easy go since the Raiders showed up in Vegas, but I can tell you that in Canada, let's think about guys over the years. Peter Labardius with the Flames, Bob Stauffer with the Oilers, Jim Ralph with the Leafs, Sergio Momesso, let's say, with the Habs. Like, if you're calling for firings of everybody, you're not going to last till noon. It's not happening. I'm sitting there looking at, you look at the radio and you're like, is he actually saying that? But from time to time, I get asked, what are they going through down there in Miami with the 1-5 Dolphins? I'll tell you what they're going through. It's as ugly as it gets. Whew. I don't listen to it a lot. I listen to it when I'm driving to the gym and back. It's a short drive, but oh my gosh. Anyways, all NHL next with the Tulsa King, Jared Dumba. Get your questions in. We're live on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network across Nevada, across Canada, and 32 U.S. states on Game Plus TV. YouTube Live podcast, 1700 AM Mission Radio. And I should tell you to get the text line in. Get your questions and comments in there. 902-518-3033. We'll be right back after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live. Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Welcome back, everybody. The RP Show continues here on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network and, of course, Game Plus. And we're brought to you in part by CoolBet. Claim your welcome bet bonus up to $200 with a promo code RP200 at coolbet.com. Canadian viewers only. Sorry. Well, that includes Jared Dumba, the Tulsa King. I've anointed you with a new nickname today. The Tulsa King. Do you like it?
Absolutely love it, Roddy. Love it.
I knew you would. I knew you would. Jared's one of my longest time friends. Played pro hockey with the Tulsa Oilers back in the day. And if there is time, we'll get to some of those stories. But you're here to talk NHL hockey as we are in Toronto, of course, anchored on Game Plus, and Vegas on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. And before I jump into the things that you wanted to talk about, and you were nice enough to send me a list, I've done my top 5, bottom 5 teams in the NHL. And I'm going to ask you, not for your top 5, bottom 5, but who do you think is the number 1 team in the NHL right now?
I'm gonna have to say Dallas, and not just because they haven't lost yet. When you watch the games, they've got that perfect mix, where they got a couple of younger guys, some older guys in the mix, and then they've got a big portion of their team that's kind of right in the prime of their career or entering the prime of their career. They've got Ottinger now. We'll see how he's been playing fantastic so far. But right now, I'd have to say Dallas. I'd say Edmonton is very, very close. I know a lot of people look at Skinner and say, "Oh, what a You need better goaltending. He only got you to the finals 2 years in a row and Game 7 one year. You need better goaltending. I'm not on that
Trust me, I
train.
get it.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Skinner. Give him another year or two here. Now he looks like McDavid's given them 3 years here to try and win. But yeah, I'd have to say those would be the two best teams. Obviously, Florida, they haven't lost yet, and they're missing their arguably their top two players. You know what? A lot of people don't realize it, but that's going to come in huge. If those two guys come back in the second half of the year, they're going to be fresh come playoff time. That's going to bode well for their chances at another cup. But those are probably the top three, in my opinion.
Terry in Calgary, Terry the lawyer, writes in, he says, Kulikov is now out 5 months after wrist surgery, another Panther. So thank you, Terry, for the update on that. Now to what you wanted to talk about, and you always love the young stars every year, whether they're rookies or like a guy like Matvei Mishkov, who's not a rookie, but he's a young guy. Ivan Demidov in Montreal, you were pretty horny about his goal last night for the Habs.
Oh man, that was unbelievable. That's something, you don't see rookies make those plays with that much confidence. That's the thing I love about the kid. And I wasn't the biggest Demidov bandwagon jumper. I was more of a Mitchkov guy. I just like how he gets down to business. Demidov's been impressing me. I'll always admit when I'm wrong. I didn't think he'd jump in and look as good as he has, especially with that kind of the fancier game you call it. Usually that doesn't translate as quickly, but man, that play last night, what a goal, and he's had some unbelievable assists. He's going to be very fun to watch. You're going to be really excited if you're the Habs, and if you're a team like Chicago, you might be a little bit upset that you missed out on the boat here. How nice would he look right now playing beside Connor Bedard or Frankie Nazar, who's had a hot start as well. So there's Demidov. But you got, like you mentioned, there's some great rookies. The other two guys I'm keeping my eye on for Rookie of the Year are St. Louis, Jimmy Snuggerud. The reason why, he's had a couple more years of seasoning. He's a rookie, but he's come in. He's a little bit older, a little bit stronger. He's time in the weight room, and he's got a good team around him. He's going to get not too good where he's not going to get lots of minutes, but he's surrounded by a really good team and a great coach. And then the other guy that I'm surprised we don't hear more about, but Minnesota Wild, Zeev Boyum. He's my pick for Rookie of the Year. He's already off. He's leading the rookies in points right now. He's got 5 assists through 4 games. Quarterbacking the power play. He was quarterbacking the power play in the playoffs last year. Now you add him, you add Kaprizov back. When Kaprizov was healthy last year, Minnesota was one of the top teams in the league. If you add a guy like Boone, who's just won everywhere he's gone, he's got a ton of talent. He's always very confident. You get to play that power play with Kaprizov and Boldy all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if he touches or even does better than what Lane Hudson did last year.
The viewers love the NHL talk. Ryan in upstate New York writes in, he says, speaking of young Russian players, check out Arseny Gritsuk of New Jersey, already making an impact on the Devils' third line. Scott in Vancouver says, no Barkov, no Kachuk, no Nozick, and now Kulikov. It will be tough for them to get to the finals again. By the way, my top 5 are Vegas 1, Carolina 2, Edmonton 3, Dallas 4, Colorado 5. And then my bottom 5 are Utah, Islanders, Chicago, San Jose, and Buffalo's the worst. And I wanted to spend a minute on the Sabres. You had that in your notes. I'm sure there's fans in Buffalo going, how come Montreal can turn it around so fast? How come Ottawa can do a rebuild and get back into the playoffs? How come we sit here slipping in our own crap for literally decades? And then you see what Jack Eichel's doing with Vegas, and you see what Sam Reinhart's doing with Buffalo, and your former players. Jared, what is the deal in Buffalo?
Well, I don't know. At some point, like you always go to the players first, then you go to the coaches. They've traded out all the players. They've traded everybody, all their big picks. They had Brandon Montour, they had Jack Eichel, they had Sam Reinhart, they had all these guys, and nobody wants to stay there. There's got to be something. Eventually, you start looking at the upper levels, and you and you start going, what's going on at the very very top? Is there something that we don't know about? Like, how can it take that long? Because they've had a lot of great draft picks in there. They do a decent job of bringing them up. And then it seems like everybody wants to leave, and the team just can't get over that hump. So it's to me, that's one of the biggest questions. Nobody seems to have the answer. What do you do? Do you tear it all down and rebuild again? They've been doing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, or see if they can catch some fire. They always seem to catch fire for the last month and a half of the season. But what do they do? Does Tage Thompson want out? Do they end up trying to get a big package for a guy like that? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in Buffalo.
Yeah, well, we would all say ownership. Everybody says ownership. Yet they're owned by the same family that owns the Buffalo Bills, who are perennial AFC title contenders. Maybe not Super Bowl contenders, but one of the better teams in the NFL. So that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but you mentioned Tage Thompson. I have the beautiful benefit of being able to watch NHL hockey here on a nightly basis in Sunrise, and from time to time Tampa Bay. And the thing with those Sabres players, they're at a point now where they won't take a hit to make a play. They won't go in the corner, especially him, because they're like, why would I? We're going to lose anyways. Yeah. That happens. And that's what I fear for in Chicago with Bedard, to be honest. I know they're very excited in Chicago about the future, but you can't allow to happen there what's going on in Buffalo. And by the way, it's not, but it could with continued losing.
Yeah. Well, eventually you got so many good, when you got that many good young guys, it's in my opinion that sometimes you gotta find of his career and or a couple of those guys and trade away some of your youth for some of your future for a little right now, because somebody's got to lead these guys. If they got nobody leading them, they don't have a good veteran, 25, 26, 28-year-old veteran who's showing them what to do every day at the rink and teaching them how to think a little bit and leading the way on the ice. If you don't have those guys in the middle, it's tough for those guys to come up and figure it out on their own. It takes them a lot longer. And then you see, as you saw in Buffalo, you get guys just get sick of it and say, I'm out of here. Ryan O'Reilly, gone. Like we said, Montour, gone. Jack Eichel, gone. Reinhardt, gone. Those guys, they only have so long. There's an expiry date, and that's what I'm worried about with Tage Thompson for the Buffalo Sabres and their fans. He only got so much longer before he says, okay, just get me out of here. This is affecting my career. I need to go try and take care of my own self.
I just realized, I think, why you have the Dallas Stars #1 overall. Is your cousin Matt playing there again? Is that a homer pick from you?
No. He's in Pittsburgh this year.
Okay, I can't keep track of where he's going. I just know that you were up there in Edmonton, right? Last year you watched Dallas, and I'm guessing you got treated real great, and all of a sudden you fall in love with the Stars. But that's not it, huh?
Yeah.
That's not it.
No. I like what they've been doing. I like what Neil's been doing for a while there. I like the addition of Rantanen. I think that gives them a whole new look with another superstar there. But they're quietly just one of the best teams. And I love Heiskanen. I love Ottinger. They've got so many good players that I really enjoy watching. Heiskanen maybe the most even though he's rated high, still one of the most underrated D in the league, in my opinion. They've been to the finals so many times. Is this the year they do it? I don't know. They're going to have a shot. And that they're going to be making some moves at the deadline like they always do.
It always goes fast when we have the Tulsa King with us, our NHL analyst, Jared Dumba, from the famous hockey-playing Dumba family. And you've got more notes you want to get to. But to be honest, the last time we were together, which was awesome, you were telling me some Tulsa stories. And I'm not sure if we air in Oklahoma or not. I have a feeling like we do. I know we air in Texas. Specifically Amarillo, which is up there close to Oklahoma. But you dropped some stats on me on Tulsa, Oklahoma that just blew my mind. You want to share them with our viewers?
Oh, just about how it was the richest city in North America. Are you talking about that one? Richest city in North America?
Yeah.
10 years in a row? Well, yeah, and I learned that when I first moved there. You're driving, and there's just these great big white fenced areas, and it's all like beautiful, big, massive homes. You can drive for 25, 35 minutes, and it looks like you're just looking at mansions the whole way. And the first time I got drove through, I said, "How is there this many rich people here?" They said, "Oh, there's a lot of money in Tulsa. This was the richest city in North America. All the oil money for I don't know what years it was, but back in the day, and that's stuck around. It's a just a beautiful city, nearly impossible to get around if you're new there. It's if anybody's ever been there, it's very easy to get lost and confused where you're going. Just the way that they did the highways. I don't know who did those, but it's just a great city. There's the people are unbelievable. It's some great areas, the Jenks area and Broken Arrow, which are just kind of suburbs. Some of the nicest areas I've been to in the States. It's I actually lived in Broken
And you
Arrow
said
for
you
a couple
haven't
summers.
seen. You said you haven't seen the show Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. Am I right on that?
I haven't. I'm not a TV guy. The only thing I watch is NHL hockey. The odd baseball game now that the Jays are in the finals.
Yeah,
Or
you're like
in
Carlo
the
Koliakovo.
playoffs.
You're like Carlo Koliakovo. I asked him for his favorite Seinfeld episode. He's like, never watched it. I'm like, who hasn't watched Seinfeld? Carlo's like, all I ever watched is sports. But anyways, yeah, season 2 of Tulsa King now streaming on Paramount. So back on point. You wanted to talk about the Jets and Jonathan Taves. And so I picked a Winnipeg-Carolina Stanley Cup final, and it was met with crickets. And you've been following and friends with me long. Usually I'll make some bold Stanley Cup final prediction. It eventually comes right, but everybody loses their mind when I say it.
It's
Jets,
usually the next
Canes,
year.
I'm usually a year ahead. But the
Yeah.
Jets Canes, it was just silence. Even Winnipeggers didn't
Really?
know how to react to that. Yeah. I want it to happen. And people are wrote in here and said it would be a very lowest viewed Stanley Cup final ever. And I don't care about that. You and I are going to be watching. Hockey fans are going to be watching. But do you think the Jets can get there?
That would be incredible. I definitely think the Jets can get there. I think Hellebuck, if they pull his games back, maybe if they can get him to play, 50 to 55 games, get him a little more rest, where he's a little bit more fresh going in. They've got all the pieces that they need, obviously, up front with, Connor and Scheifele. Connor, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 to 7 players in the league. He's unbelievable to watch. But the thing that I like about the Jets this year, and a lot of people were thinking, well, Jonathan Taves hasn't played for a couple of years and he's going to be a step behind. It doesn't matter if he's a step behind. He's such an intelligent hockey player. All he has to do is play defense. Chips in is great, but you know that he's going to be bringing that confidence in the room, the confidence that got the Blackhawks 3 Stanley Cups. Now he's in that room. There's so many little things that people don't understand that need to be taken care of in a room, where if you can get a guy like that who's won, that's why the guys are so highly sought after that have won championships. And if you can get the captain, one of the best captains of all time, in that locker room, even if he played 2 shifts a game in the playoffs, which he won't, he's going to get better as the season progresses. I think by about February, March, I think you're going to see a completely different player than we're looking at today. And he's not bad today. But I think he's going to bring so much to that locker room, and just the confidence that he brings, the seriousness, the confidence, knows when to have fun and when to be serious. I think there's another team that usually they might make a little tweak or two at the deadline, but they don't need much. I think they've got enough to go from goaltending right on through their forwards.
I should, because I got just a couple minutes left here with our hockey analyst, Jared Dumba. If we can fit it in, Leafs and Golden Knights, as we are in Toronto and Vegas. Let's start with the Golden Knights. I have them as the number 1 team in the NHL. Why? My criteria is, who would I least want to play in a Stanley Cup final or in a playoff series overall? Assuming everybody's healthy, Vegas would be the last team I want to play. What do you see out of them?
Oh, Vegas is unbelievable. The way that they're put together, and we all know McCrimmon, he just doesn't lose. He doesn't seem to have any off years. The way he's put that together, there's a lot of Western boys there. The addition of Eichel years ago, he's been nothing but great there. Now adding Mitch Marner, it's Marner. What was he, a point a game in the playoffs? And everybody was, obviously the Leafs fans and the media are all over guys all the time. Now Marner's going to be a little bit more free. He's not going to have that pressure on, and he's getting to play play with Eichel. I mean, he was already playing with Matthews, which it's a little from column A, a little from column B. Which one's better? Who knows? But now he's getting to play with Eichel and the crew. They got such a good deep team there. That would be another. I should have probably said Vegas. I don't know how I left them out in the top few teams in the league, but they're right there. They've got everything as well. Goaltending right on out. But now with Marner added to the forwards, like Marner, who do you want? You want Marner, you want Eichel, you want Stone, you want they've just got so many weapons that can beat you. And Marner hasn't even scored a goal yet. He's got 4 assists, I think. He's just easing into the system. Takes a while to get a new system, but when in that locker room and in that system, look out. He'll be touching 100 points again. Eichel will be over 100 points again. That's gonna be they got a great recipe to get another Stanley Cup going in Vegas. I think you and I should go if they make the finals.
Hey, the Golden Knights want us there. They have asked. They're like, "Are you coming out for some live shows?" I'm like, "It's not planned, but why the hell not?" I was on a show recently. Somebody said to me, "Yes, you did." Somebody said, "I'm worried about Adin Hill in goal." I'm like, "Well, then you're the only one. They've already won a Stanley Cup with him." So, no. In a minute, we only got a minute. The Leafs. They look like the Harlem Globetrotters in the highlights I saw last night, smashing Nashville.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I listen to every podcast you could possibly imagine. There's people loving them. There's people that think that they look terrible and slow. They've had a couple of slow periods. I've watched most of the games that they played so far. It's a different look. It's a completely different look, and that's what the fans called for. That's what they wanted. They wanted new DNA, as they say. Now they've got it. They're going to have more of a rugged team. It's not going to be quite as exciting as it was, even though they won a lot of one-goal games last year, too. There's some tight games. But you're going to have more of that rugged. Question is, are they going to go out and try and add another scoring forward to complement Matthews? Looks like Tavares and Nylander will always be together, and rightfully so. Nylander's had a bit of a slow start. He does that sometimes. That's just Willie. But he'll come around when the time is right and the lights are the brightest. But I don't mind what Toronto's got there. I think they're going to have good goaltending. They've got more of a rugged team, and they're going to have a shot.
To say goodbye. Good job, the Tulsa King. Thank you, Jared, the Tulsa King, our NHL analyst, Jared Dumba. Get used to him, everybody. We'll be right back here on Silver State Sports Entertainment Network and Game Plus.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
We're back at it, everybody, here on Game Plus Television and the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. And I'm so excited for all of you, not just the Canadians, but the new viewers in Nevada to meet our cast of characters. And I'll tell you who this one is right in me in a second. But first, a sports update. For Ultimate Fan Zone, your home for jerseys, collectibles, and all the gear you need. Visit them today or shop online at ultimatefanzone.ca. If you like our stuff, you can get it all at Ultimate Fan Zone. The Dallas Mavericks of the NBA have again extended the contract of coach Jason Kidd. The team announced a multi-year extension without revealing the length or other details of the deal. Kidd is going into his fifth season as their head coach. It's interesting they would say that the terms were not released, because doesn't it feel like in today's sports world, we all got to know how long? And it's interesting because on, what day is it? Wednesday. Tuesday night I was watching on ESPN, maybe you all were, the Lightning Capitals broadcast. And Emily Kaplan was on there talking about John Cooper signing an extension with the Lightning. And to paraphrase, she's like, we all tried to find out, but they never would say how long the extension is for John Cooper. And I was like, you can still do that? In 2025, the teams can keep the details to themselves? I kind of like that. Anyways, moving on to baseball. A lawyer for the family of Tyler Skaggs says the Los Angeles Angels should be held responsible for the drug overdose death of the star pitcher. The team's attorney, however, said they were not aware of drug use by Skaggs, or they would have done something to help. The comments came in opening statements Tuesday in the trial for a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Skaggs' family. Plaintiff's attorney Sean Hawley told jurors that Angels officials knew communications director Eric Kay was supplying drugs to Skaggs and other players. The Angels argue Skaggs' actions were his own and not preventable by the MLB team. The trial could include testimony from players like Mike Trout and Wade Miley. Story poignant for one of my friends I'm going to talk to you about in a second. College football fans have a packed weekend with a season-high five top 25 matchups on Saturday. The action kicks off with number 10, LSU, visiting number 17, Vanderbilt, followed by number 5, Mississippi, at number 9, Georgia. In the evening, number 11, Tennessee, faces number 6, Alabama. Number 20, Southern California, takes on number 13, Notre Dame. And number 23, Utah, visits number 15, BYU. Unbeaten UNLV. Come on, we're all... From right out of the chute, we've been hearing about this UNLV team, and they haven't slowed down. They look to knock off Boise State on the road. Quarterbacks Carson Beck of Miami, Ty Simpson of Alabama, and Fernando Mendoza of Indiana have separated themselves in the Heisman Trophy race. Wonderful weekend of college football upcoming. And that is your sports update, proudly presented by Ultimate Fan Zone Sports Store. Get your game day gear in-store or online at ultimatefanzone.ca. So to my cast of character friends, Bob Merrier works, you by now know my career as a recovery coach, sober coach. Bob is the most famous sober coach in either country, Canada or the USA. Look him up, Bob Merrier. Spends his time down here in South Beach, has a home there, and Montreal. He always is on me about the Montreal Canadiens. He writes me today, Rod, you're hearing it here first. They're well on their way. Canada better get ready for a decade of wagon hockey. What really stands out is the total buy-in to the culture and how Montreal has become a destination again. No question, the best management team in the country right now is Gorton and Hughes in Montreal with the Canadiens. I said to Bob, I tagged you in a post on Facebook this morning, but I took it down because you didn't respond. And he says, sorry, I was doing an intervention. That's what we do. God bless Bob Merrier. Now he's filling up my phone. Like, I'll probably get him on the air here, but he is he only deals with the wealthy celebrities in addiction recovery. Mine is limited to sports, entertainment, and military, and just men. There's enough work there. Okay? Look up Pedersen Recovery on social media. You'll see what we do. But I love me some Bob Merrier. But when I was talking about the neurotic nature of Canadiens fans, his face pops into my mind every time. We all need fans like that, don't we? We do. Overtime is coming up next. Get your comments in at your last chance. 902-518-3033 Western Dodge text line. We'll put a capper on everything we've talked about here today. We're live on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network and Game Plus.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and
Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge. Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca. We're back for overtime. It's the final segment of the day, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty proud of today's show. We've covered a lot of ground and been very productive. Wayne in Victoria, BC writes in, he says, this turned out to be a wonderful Wednesday RP show. Well done, Rod and crew. Why do you sound surprised, Wayne? I kid. Thanks for your continued support. BW writes in from Edmonton. He says, rumor has it Carter Hart signing today in Vegas. The rumor's been out there for about 10 days. I'm a big Carter Hart fan. I'm a big Golden Knights fan. I hope that it happens. Maybe by the time it airs on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, it will have been announced by then. But again, the rumor's been out for about 10 days. He's going to play somewhere and be interesting to see where it goes. All I'll say is I support the move. That's what I will say. Overtime is brought to you by our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. If you're looking for the perfect place to perfect your shot, look no further than Overtime Hockey Lanes. Baseball has batting cages. Golf has driving ranges, Top Golf. Why would hockey not have shooting lanes? Well, we do in Calgary at Overtime Hockey Lanes. Stop in and see Randy and Michelle. Tell them the RP show sent you. 28th Street Northeast, Calgary. Great family-run business, and dare I say, look for an Overtime Hockey Lanes maybe popping up in a city near you. Scott in Vancouver writes in regarding Carter Hart. He says, don't the Flyers own his rights? About 3 weeks ago, the Sherwood Park, Alberta product told the Flyers that he would not be returning to Philadelphia. I don't really know how that story went. It had to have been crafted PR-wise. Flyers were, I guess, good with it. I'm not sure they were interested in bringing him back, but Carter Hart said, I will not be coming back. Wayne, by the way, continues with our discussion. He says, I'm a Football Friday guy, Rod. Well, you will love this Football Friday. There will be no show Thursday, by the way. There will be no show Thursday. Our stations know that. Game Plus and the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. But we'll be back on the air on Friday with Jim Barker, everybody's favorite. We'll call him Canada's coach, even though he's from Los Angeles. 5-time Grey Cup champion and was a Las Vegas resident for a good period of time. When I say productive here, I was mentioning earlier, if you just tuned in, and over the course of the 2 hours of our program on Game Plus, that I was on a podcast out of Chicago, the Hockey Princess podcast with the lovely Angela Cody. And she said she was going to Winnipeg end of the month with her dad to watch the Jets and Jonathan Toews, the greatest Blackhawks captain of all time, in her words, and I'm sure he is. Won 3 Stanley Cups there. She's like, what's there to do in Winnipeg? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never lived there, but let's put it out to our viewers and let's see. And I appreciate all those that wrote in with their answers. And I'm going to tell her the Forks Market, number 1, and Polo Park Mall. I kind of came up with that one on my own. I've always enjoyed going there. But I want to thank Kristen in Winnipeg for her help and all the rest. Oh, and by the way, of course, the big story today is baseball. Canada's on pins and needles, and Blue Jays fans around the world for Game 3 of the ALCS tonight. And I feel like nobody knows who's going to win. Nobody knows. That's what's fun about this. We can all sit and break down the analysis, make predictions, but nobody knows. That's why they play the games. What I know is the numbers are not in favor. The analytics, the stats are not in favor of the Toronto Blue Jays, but we don't, well, I was going to say we don't go by that, but apparently John Schneider does, the manager. You know what I'm saying. 8:08 Eastern first pitch. Just one baseball game tonight. And not so many Dodgers fans watching on Game Plus, but I'm sure there are a ton watching on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. They're heading back home from Milwaukee with a 2-0 series lead. And my dream has been since about the 1st of July, a Blue Jays-Dodgers World Series. Wouldn't that be something? My two favorite uniforms in all of baseball colliding in the World Series. And ironically, Jim Barker's team versus my team. Oh, and Kevin the Medium is going to be with us as well. Kevin the Medium, the guy that speaks to dead people. I think that's why we get along so well. He'll be with us on Football Friday, where we will be making our CFL picks as well. As we know, Toronto, a CFL market, Vegas, formerly a CFL market. A lot of big fans of the Canadian Football League there. Our poll question has been put to bed, and I'm not surprised by this. Every Wednesday we do it. What's Canada's game of the week in the Canadian Football League? And winning the poll, you got 22 more hours to vote on it, but it's the Edmonton Elcamos at the BC Lions on Friday night. That's Canada's game of the week, so says our viewers. Mandy in Edmonton writes in on the Western Dodge text line. She says, how about them Elcamos beating the Blue Bombers last week? A couple of years ago, I wouldn't have suspected I would see the day. They very strongly Canadian topic there. If only there were more people at the game to watch it. But it did warm my heart to turn on CBS Sports Network on Monday and watch Ottawa at Montreal and a sold-out Percival Molson Stadium there. Attendance not an issue in Montreal. Like a lot of fan bases, they love their team when it's winning. We've talked a lot of Montreal today, more so hockey, obviously, with the Canadiens. Biggest rink in the NHL, 21,000 plus, full every game. Win or lose. Every town has that team in their market. Here in South Florida, it's the Dolphins. They suck. The stadium's full every game. Pretty sure the Golden Knights are full every game. Saddledome's full every game. Canada Life Center in Winnipeg's full every game. Fortunately, the Jets have been good. Anywho, thanks to producer Corey. Thanks to all of you for playing along. The audience participation works real good when it's me flying solo, Rush Limbaugh style. And a big thank you to the Tulsa King, our hockey analyst, Jared Dumba, bringing the heat. Not many people talking hockey in the USA, and people are coming to us for that, and I'm glad that you do. We'll see you Friday. Thanks, everybody, here on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, and, of course, across Canada on Game Plus TV. Toodaloo.
That.